Welcome folks, my name is Tom Beatty. I'm the chair of the Web Design and Development program at Newmont College of Computer Science, and today we're going to do some JavaScript programming. Okay, so we're going to talk about JavaScript objects now. I have already set up an objects folder, and I've made that my current folder in Visual Studio Code. If you don't know how to do that, then please look at one of the previous videos. I will very quickly set up my index.html, script.js. In index, again, exclamation point or bang, enter, script, src equals script.js. Hopefully you're familiar with how to do all that now. Let's get started with making an object. Okay, so I'm going to create an object. I'm going to say let. I'll call it my object. It doesn't really matter what you name these things. You want to be as specific as you can. But for now, I'm just going to call it my object because it gives me a name to work with. And I'm going to use object literal notation, which is very similar to the array literal notation. Remember, for an array, we use square brackets, but for an object, we use curly braces. And so I am creating an object right now. And an object can hold other variables, other objects, or object-like things. So I could say, let's create an object that holds stuff. And so this essentially is a variable called stuff. And stuff might have in it maybe it's a string and it holds things. I separate these different variables or objects with a comma. And so let's see what else. Maybe my object has stuff that's in the garage and it's a Boolean. And maybe the number of items in there is 324. So apparently my object has a whole bunch of items, contains things. And to access any of these, I could console log my entire object, of course. If I save that, run my index.html, open up my console, it says I've got an object, but I can open that up and see. Now, one thing to notice about objects, you'll notice it listed them not in the order that I created them. Chrome puts them alphabetically. It doesn't actually matter what order they go in an object because you access them by their variable names. These are what's known as key value pairs. So here I have a key and it has a value. I have another key, it has another value. I have another key and another value. And so if I didn't want to show my entire object, I just want to access my object dot stuff that should return things because that's the value of my object dot stuff. And sure enough, I've got things. I just put a bunch of random stuff and things together. Let's be a little more specific though. So let's create Bob. I've used Bob in previous examples, but I haven't told you that much about Bob. So let's define Bob. And Bob's name is, well, Bob. And Bob's age is 21. And Bob's species isn't quite what you'd expect. Poor Bob is a zombie. And you might say that a zombie isn't really a species. Well, I'm going to argue that he's changed enough becoming a zombie that he isn't really human anymore. Poor Bob, but he's content being a zombie. Anyway, So we've got name, age, species. Is Bob undead? Yes, that is true. So we've got a Boolean there. And hobbies. So remember I said you can store pretty much any object or object-like thing inside a variable, and you know, it can be a value for one of these key value pairs. And so I'm actually going to go ahead and put an array as a value inside the objects for hobbies. And so let's go ahead and say the hobbies of Bob the Zombie are moaning, walking aimlessly, and of course eating brains. So there we go. We've got Bob. We've got his name, age, species, whether or not he's undead, and his hobbies. So let's access some of this. If I wanted to console log, I could of course console log all of Bob, but let's just console log his species. And I can't just say species, it's a part of the Bob object. So I need to do bob.species. We refresh that, and sure enough, he's a zombie. It says so. And I could say, all right, fine, give me Bob's hobbies. And I refresh that, and oh, look, there are his hobbies as an array. But what if I wanted to get, say, the second hobby in this list? Well, I can just do bob.hobbies sub, and I could put 1. And remember, 1 is going to be the second one, because in arrays we start with 0, 1, and 2. And so this should return walking aimlessly. And sure enough, there it is. Okay, so that's an object. Now, the interesting thing is you can put arrays inside objects. You can put objects as elements inside arrays. You can put objects as elements inside other objects. You can essentially go infinitely deep with objects and arrays, just putting them inside each other. So let's play with that just a little bit. Let me go ahead and I'm going to do this. I'll say let Harry equal Harry. Age is Harry's a bit older. He's 42. And with a name like Harry, being a werewolf is almost ironic. He is not undead. And I'm not going to worry about giving Harry any hobbies right now. Let Suzette equal, got a name, age. Suzette looks 34. We don't really know how old she is because she's a vampire. And undead, yeah. And we'll add Sally now. And Sally's 28. Species, she's actually human. And not undead. All right, cool. So we've got 4 people here. And if I wanted to, You know, I'm going to take this console log and yeah, I'll just get rid of it. We'll make some modifications to that in a minute. I could create a new variable that's an array. We'll call it people array. And let's add in Bob and Harry and Suzette and Sally. And so now this is an array that contains all of these objects. If I went ahead and I console logged my people array, let's see what I get. Oh look, there are four elements in this array, and here's the array. You see the square brackets, and inside there's an object inside each one. You roll over here. Oh look, those are objects. So I open this up, and sure enough, inside element 0, we've got Bob with his age and hobbies, names. Remember, this is not in the order that we put it in. It's alphabetized it, but it doesn't really matter because we access it by the key or the name of those variables. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that's kind of cool. So if I wanted to make some changes, I'm going to make some changes. So Sally's going to have a birthday. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is Sally. So I'm going to say people are 3, which is Sally, dot age equals, Sally's 28 now. We're going to make her older, and I could hard code in the 29, or I could say equals, and I could do people are 3 dot age plus 1, but fortunately there's a shortcut for that. And you know, if I wrote this, it would say, all right, we've got our people are 3, that's Sally, target her age, and add 1 to it, and make that the new value of people are 3 age. But an easier way to do this is to just say plus equals 1, and it will then take this value and add 1 to it. And if I do that, and I refresh, I can look here, and I can see Sally is now 29. And so Harry, being a friend to Sally, decides that for her birthday, he's going to bite her and make her a werewolf. Harry's not a very good friend. Anyway, so that's going to change her species. We're modifying Sally's species, and that will make her a werewolf as well. We refresh, open it up. Sally is now 29 and sadly also a werewolf. Okay? So we can change values, we can access values, we can keep it all stored in neat and tidy ways. And so this is just an array of objects, and that's one of the many magical things about JavaScript. We'll do a lot more with objects and arrays later on. They become a very important aspect, especially when we talk about the JSON format, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation. But we'll get into that in future videos. Alright, if you like this video, please hit subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. I will provide more content in the future and keep it entertaining for you. Thanks a lot.